I'm going to record this in case I can go back and watch it and see if I did a good job. So as you'll see here, we have this beautiful Lowrey Inspired. I'm going to play on some more styles here. One of the things that you'll see here is I have a little cheat sheet here. And this cheat sheet represents all of the rhythms that this instrument has. Now, I have a little trivia for my staff members, and I'll ask you to mute. I'll start with the top left on my screen. How many rhythms does a Lowrey Patriot have, Brian or Joni?
I would guess 212.
Pretty close. All right. Myra, do you know the answer to that? You're unmuted.
Yeah, there we go. Around 212, 215.
You're pretty close. The Patriot now, not the Prestige.
I know Patriot.
I know.
Yeah, Patriot.
I think Sean knows.
Well, Patriot has 40 some more than the Prestige does, for sure.
You're getting close. Sean?
Well,
Sean?
The Patriot, sir, has 286.
Oh, he got it right.
He looked it up.
I sure didn't.
He knows that answer. You'd be surprised how much more about these instruments Sean knows than I do. I use Patriot as a reference point because the Patriot is the closest thing to the top besides, you know, the Liberties and what have you, but has 286 styles. After that, they add a few more styles to it. The Inspire happens to have 286 styles on it, the same as the Lowrey Patriot. So that's the significance of that, is that top of the line model has the same amount of styles. And you're going to hear a bunch of these styles as I go through it and show off some of the wonderful features that the instrument has. So moving onward, speaking of fun styles here, I like country music. And one of my favorite country styles on here, again, off of the Patriots and the Prestiges and all those top-of-the-line models, this one's called Texas Toe Tapper. So you're going to feel like you're in Texas tapping your toes. That's what that means. Here we go. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please hold the applause, hold the applause. Well, that was the Texas Toe Tapper. I'm going to reference some of the styles. Now, the interesting thing about the styles is a lot of the new styles also happens to pull out the new sounds. Now, we have, speaking of sounds, we have on the panel here, we have what's called setups. Now, some of you may have presets. The difference between a preset, and there is a difference between a preset as far as what comes up, but it works the same way in the function. And so for many years, Lowrey had presets on the instrument. So you'd have up to 10 presets. And what Lowrey did over the years, in a preset, the beauty of a preset is it's basically like having recipes at your fingertips, all these beautiful sound and setup recipes. The difference is you don't have to go out and buy the ingredients and cook it like you would a recipe book, right? Here, it's like an instant, it's like a microwave almost. You just push the button and you magically have this wonderful setup. So why do they call it setups and why do they call it presets? Well, I think Lowrey used presets as a way to set them apart from any other competition. And when the E series came out, the Easy 10s, the Fanfares, the Journeys, they switched over the word setup. And I think it was kind of logical because every time we explain what a preset did, we would tell the students what a preset does is it sets up the organ to do da 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 da, et cetera. And so I think they just figured out, let's change it to setups. Now, on the Inspire, they gave the player, the hobby player, the best of both worlds. Because here's what we realized when the Inspire came out, is that we knew a lot of folks that had the Fanfares and the Journey style instruments were used to using the instrument. And so you'll notice that the panel is set up very similar in nature. And you can't get too close, but this is labeled the same way. All of the magic happens in the screen here. And they gave us all of these new what's called setups at your fingertips, and I'll explain this in a moment. And so if someone was used to using a style, so for example, if I decide to put on, let me pick a style here. Here's a nice one here. This is a new one taken directly off of, originally started on the Prestige, and I'm going to put on, it's called, it's on my Latin category. It's called Latin Big Band. This is great, the styling of Xavier Cugat and that big band orchestra, but in a Latin flavor, okay? Now, I have a button here called Style Setup, and I have 10 setups. So if I push Style Setup, and I use the 10 presets or setups, I'm going to get a 10 plus the initial one, 11 different setups just for that one style, okay? However, when Lowry introduced this, they also knew that there was going to be a lot of folks going from a Performer, Stardust, Prestige, SU, A-series models that had such great preset sounds on those instruments that they wouldn't want to have lost those sounds. And they also knew that people that had the EYs, the Fanfares, the Easies, the Journeys, they didn't want to lose it. So they had to make a decision here. Do we put the setups like the people are used to on the E series, or do we put the setups like the people are used to on the A series and the SUs? And you know what they did? Nilda, you have that look like, what did they do? Well, I'll answer that. They did both. They gave us the best of both worlds. Now, watch how this works. Very simple. And you know what's funny is they didn't have to add any other extra buttons except for one, okay? So here we have a button called Style Setup. Here there's a button called Vintage, okay? Style Setup represents the latest setups that were offered on the Easy and the EYs, and et cetera. So for someone coming from an SU or an A series model, they'd get all these new setups. But if you're like me, I was used to playing the A series models and the SUs forever, and I love those presets. I just hit the Vintage button and it shifts it and gives me an additional 11 setups to play. So here's what that means. For every rhythm style, the Latin Big Band, the Tito's Big Band, the Habanero, there are 11 setups plus 11 setups. That's 22 setups for every single rhythm style. And how many styles did we say we had, Myra? 286 times 22
Whoa.
is a lot of setups. Now, the question becomes, how will I know? That's if I just do the math, it's give or take about 6,000 setups. How in the world am I ever going to learn all those? In fact, Sean, you said you'd help me out. So while I'm playing this, I want you to find the screen. See if you have do you have a picture of a screen on the Inspire somewhere?
Sure, a screen.
You know, with the preset information or no?
I can look. It might take a minute. I don't know if I have that one.
If you find, if not, great, that's fine. I'm going to explain it though. If he happens to find it, it'll be great. I'm kind of putting him on the spot here. But the screen here, it's kind of hard to see from where you're at because you're like 4,000 or 3,000 miles away in some cases. So it's kind of hard to see from that far away. But on the screen here, you're going to see, you've probably already seen me do it, but I reached over down here a few times. Down on this panel over here, there's a little button here. It's just 1, 2, 3. When I press it, the screen gives me, on the screen here, it tells me what every single sound is on the top and the bottom keyboard. So if you see me reaching over to the left over here, it's because I don't know what sounds I'm going to get, so I'm asking it to tell me. So before I play it, I know it's a sound that I'm going to agree with. Now here's the difference between some of the models in the past have this same option, but in the models in the past, they were very generic. It said easy, a little more, a piano type sound or something like. Here it actually says 2 guitars with a big band sound, clarinet with a sax and a flugelhorn, number 4, strings and violin. And then when I push style setup, it changes trumpet and marimbas, duet, et cetera, et cetera. So what I'm going to do is play this new style, the Latin big band style, and I'll start off with my vintage. And then as I'm playing, I'll just go to my style setup and I'll just use not all of the presets. I'm not going to use all 22 in a little songette, but I'll just bounce around so you could hear the differences in the sounds. Here we go. Thank you. Hold the applause, hold the applause, hold the, oh, you're not applauding. All right, so as you notice, as I was playing that, I was just bouncing around from setup to setup. And anytime that I'm using these styles, I'm gonna reach over and press that little button there because that tells me every single setup that is listed on the top and the bottom every single time. So, and I'll get to some other setups here in just a moment. Actually, you know what? Since I'm talking about setups, I'm going to do it now. Now, some of you have what's called category setups or category presets. So if you see on the dash here, there's 3 buttons. It's called bank setups. And over here, there's a button that says category. And here's what that means. Anytime I touch a rhythm style and I have style setup or vintage, what it does is it gives me 11, so 22 different setups for every style, so it caters to that style. So if I put on big band, I'm going to get 22 different setups for big band. If I get country, I'm going to get 22 and so forth and so forth. So it's set up specifically for that style, which is great. Now, what they've done is they've given us bank and category. What's the difference? The bank setups come preset with some sounds and setups from the factory, which is great, but we can customize those. So a lot of times what happens, I don't know if this has happened to you, but you ever pushed a button or some sound you experimented with and you realize, oh, that doesn't sound good. Probably not you, but sometimes when I'm experimenting, I get a sound that I don't like. That ever happened to you? No? Nilda, I heard you're a pro at it. So, but, oh, and Milt too. Yeah, they told me that Milt gets a perfect sound every single time. Kay, you're like a professional at this, aren't you? Just go like that. But when I'm experimenting, that's called experimenting. A lot of times I get a sound I don't like. But this also happens. A lot of times when you experiment, you find a sound that you do like, and we don't want to lose it. So the advantage of having bank setups is that you can customize and save those setups there. And to take it a step further, on here, and I'm going to show it off in a little bit. There's a little stick here, what they call a USB stick. And you can save it on there. You can have recordings, or you could have it done for you. And then you can very easily access these setups on the stick just by pressing USB and load. Well, that's nice. Let's take it a step further. Because over here, there's category setups. And some of the models, there's like 3 or 4 of them here. There might be a country, a swing, or Latin, or something like that. What Lowry did is to make room, to not make the instrument larger, and to make room for more, they put one button called Category Select. And on the screen, it gives me what they call a page. So there's 8 categories. 8 categories, 8 categories times 3. There's 24 additional category setups times 11, which basically means 24 times 11 recipes at your fingertips. And we have from your Latin to your Broadway sounds, to your big band sounds. They have a category here for the drinkers. They call it lush sounds. No, they're luscious sounds, not for the drinkers. Let me think about that for a minute. We got some theater settings and so forth and so forth. I'm going to play one of my favorite setups here. It's called Love Songs. And when I touch Love Songs and activate it, I'm going to push my little preset information so I could see what I get. And I have some beautiful love vocals to ballads. You're going to hear this alto saxophone. You could actually hear the breath and the vibrato, just like a professional saxophone player would do. Then you're going to hear the 101 strings orchestra and all these gorgeous, gorgeous sounds here. So sit back, enjoy these new category setups. Could you hear the actual breath of the flute? Listen, just without all the stuff. Isn't that pretty? Hold the applause, hold the applause, hold the applause.
Beautiful.
So these are just, and again, the more presets and setups you have, the more recipes you have at your fingertips that make you sound great by the push of a button. You know, in the microwaves, my daughter uses a microwave, and her favorite button on that microwave is the minute plus. You just push the button. That's what I think of, only it's not a minute plus. It's like a half a second plus. You just press it and boom, you automatically get this beautiful sound. Now, we talked about, earlier I mentioned how a lot of the new sound rhythm styles give us these new sounds and the settings on there. So I'm going to play another one of my favorite styles on here. It's another Latin style. You know what? I think every one that I play is my favorite. And speaking of favorites, before I do this, I can see some of you here. Show of hands. How many of you have a favorite style or two that you use a lot on your instrument? I can see you. Let's see, Sean. Neil, do you have a favorite rhythm on you play? Sometimes people love their country button. How about you, Mil? You have a favorite that you use a lot? Some yes, some say I like them all. Well, it never fails. If I had a student sitting in front of me and I said, sit down and just play one of your favorite styles. And you'd be surprised how often somebody goes, they always know that one or two that they use a lot. And then if I ask everybody, what's your favorite styles on the instrument? You'd have to think about it for a while because there's so many good ones. But over time, it's second nature to always have a handful of favorites. And there's a new button here that's called favorites. Sean, do you have that Inspire book yet?
Uh-huh.
You have the favorites page in there somewhere?
Sure.
See if you can pull that up on the screen. Do something for me, Sean. Do something. And here's what the favorites does. It's the easiest feature to use too. When you get into, it's kind of like a bench. Is there ever going to be a bench big enough for all the music books we have? No. But a lot of students say, I always put my favorite books or the books I'm using that week, I keep them close by. Well, the favorite style here button here is great because if you happen to have some favorite styles that you use a lot, you can program it. And when you press the favorites button here, which I did on my organ, wow, that was amazing. I pressed it on the organ and it came up on the screen there.
You're welcome.
Wow, that's amazing. You'll see there that there are 8 buttons. And when you use those 8 buttons, oh, this one has a go-go on it? Oh, I didn't realize that. Fascinating. Circle aligns. What you can do is program 8 of your favorite styles into the instrument. And it's real simple. You just touch the button and you scroll until you get to the style that you want to use. And then once you get to the one you want to use or leave there as a favorite, you don't have to do anything else. You just leave it there. The question is I've had a couple questions. What if I do a total reset? If you do a total reset, it does not reset the styles. How do I change it? You just touch it and change it until you go to another. You can always go and you never lose it. So I'm going to go ahead and put my other favorite style in here since I'm demonstrating this. What was it? Tito's Big Band, right? And then it's there. So whenever I'm ready, all I have to do is hit my favorites button, hit Tito's Big Band, and I'm all ready to go automatically. Here's our new Latin style featuring Tito's Big Band, which is Tito Puentes, by the way. And he had also a great, different flavor, totally different upbeat. Here we go. great. I don't know if you notice from time to time. Thank you, Nilda. Thank you. Hold the
We
applause.
were all
Everybody.
dancing to that, Robert.
What's that?
I said we were all dancing to that.
Were you really? I was too. I had to sneak in to show you every now and then. That's a great style. Just I don't know if you noticed, but every now and then I'm reaching up, touching this thing here. I did a few Zoom demos over the last 2 months, and I would do that, and people thought I had some kind of nervous reaction to some of the styles because I kept going up and doing things. And no, it's actually a touch bar. Now, I know some models have the touch bar on it, and you're familiar with it, but the pressure sensitivity, this is totally different, and it actually gives us, what's really cool about this is you can program the touch bar. Typically it's defaulted, what they call default setting is when you touch it, it gives me a fill-in. So you can change it though, and I'm going to go to the feature. It just simply goes touch bar, and I won't go through them all, but I'll tell you what you can do. You can program to do a fill. You can program it to do what's called a tap tempo. The advantage of the tap tempo is, I can't tell you many times students have said, when I'm putting a rhythm on, especially a fast one, I need to slow it down, and I'm trying to slow it down, and sometimes it's hard to find the right tempo to use, and so they'll slow it down, and they kind of know that if it's like this, okay, and they're trying to match this with slowing it down. Well, on the instrument here, this feature, when you have it on the tap tempo setting, what you can do is just tap it out, 1, 2. So for example, if I have that rhythm on, let's say a ball, let's say I want to speed it up and do it a lot faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let me actually put it back on the tap tempo here. Watch this. This is pretty cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I feel like doing the Star Trek theme today. So you could actually tap it out to the speed that you know is going to feel right. And there's a few other things you can start or stop. You can do it's an auto start stop. As many of us we talked about transpose in a lot of our classes. You can actually program the transpose. You can do that right from there. You can increase your tempo, decrease your tempo. You can program intros and endings, 1 and 2. You can actually do a fade in or fade out. You can do the no chord instead of doing the smash on the keys. You could actually do it right here. Or you can, some people have trouble with minor chords and 7th chords. You could actually program it so that it does a 7th chord, or you can program it so it does a minor, or you can program it to do that complicated one, a diminished chord. So you can make it do many things for you, and you can program sound effects and so forth. So that's what's great about this touch bar. You can do, there's something like, sounds like spaghetti, sostenuto. Actually, I think someone talked about that in the classes recently, in all your sound effects. You can program the light show on here and the fake it. A lot of things. Which setting do you use? It depends on what your needs are. Now, I talked about this USB, and I'm going to pull up some music for you. And let's see here. So you should be looking at, in just a second here, some music. You see there's Ave Maria, Besame Mucho, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is a book that I've used at one point in time. Oh, that's let me stop the screen share for a minute and pull out the music for that. So what you'll notice is when I pull up this music, a lot of people have their staff members make setups for them on the USB. And give me a moment. Let me just pull. I thought I had the right one pulled up, but I didn't. Okay, I think I got the right one now. Apologies. Okay, so I'm going to bring the screen share again and pull up the music again. So this time you should see the table of contents. You see that, Joni? Shake your head up and down. Okay. All right, so you'll see here, there's music. It says Ave Maria, so forth. And what I'm going to do is go to one here that I love to play called Somewhere Out There. And I'll take the screen off when I'm playing it. But a lot of times you may see music, and I've shared this with some students, and I always get that phone call. What is that tune? Am I supposed to put A2, A3? And the answer is don't. Because if you're doing what's built into the organ, it's just going to give you just a plain organ sound. Whenever we see music like this, if you see it altered where someone hand wrote it or did something like this, it means they've designed setups for that song. So when they play it, they have all these setups that they saved. The problem is, if you have a song like this, you can use what's on the instrument and it'll sound good. But if you want the exact arrangement that the performer had, all you have to do is ask, can I have those setups? And very easily in an email or just handing off a copying of a stick, you can do that. So I'm going to play the song, and you'll see it says 0. Okay. Anytime I get to that number, I'm going to press that preset, and you're going to see me doing it as I'm playing it. And what I'm going to do is very simply load these setups in. And this is great because it features a new style on here called Love Ballad. And I'm going to go to somewhere out there, and I just press all, and it loads. That's how fast the setups are loaded in. You look like you didn't see that. Watch. Some of you look, oh, what happened? I'm going to touch USB, load, and then I see somewhere out there, and I touch it, and it says, do you want to load all the presets? And the answer is yes. So I just hit all. And instantly, I have my full arrangement for this. Now, if I had the music up, luckily I know the song by heart, but if I had the music here, what I do is I would play the song in the way I see it on the music, and I just push A1, A2, A0, et cetera, and then you get this. So that was just one of the new styles that's on here, actually directly off from one of our top of the line models. But I use some of the setups just to show off how the USB works. And the beauty of that is it's as simple as copying it, and it takes literally about 2 seconds to copy it from one to another. And you have arrangements from all the artists all across the board at just of a snap of a finger. Now, I used the secret button here today a few times, and I have been holding out on you. And I got to at least tell you what it is, because Sean said that if I don't tell everybody, they're going to wonder, why does it sound so good? And it depends on what setting I'm using. It's going to sound more apparent. When I was doing the love songs earlier, I used a feature and a couple of other settings here. I used the feature, I was using the easy play in some cases. Now, many students use 1 or 2 fingers. Some even do 3-finger chords. And MCS was a feature that I think was revolutionary back in the day. I don't know what year that actually came out. Was that, Joni, would you know the answer to that? I think Seth Rice said that came out in the 80s. I heard he was the one that actually invented that feature. Is that correct? And since he worked for Lowry, Lowry owned it. That's the way that goes. But MCS, that feature, what's so amazing about it is we kind of take it for granted now because it's been around for years. But when it came out for the first time, what was so special about it was, for the first time, if someone played a 1-finger chord, they can get a 3-finger chord. Well, that wasn't different than the other manufacturers back in those days. However, if someone wanted to go from a 7th to a minor, 3-finger to 2-finger to 1, bouncing back and forth, there were no other instrument did that except for the Lowry. And it does what we call musically correct chording. So if you go from, now you turn it on, it just comes on naturally for you. Now, I'm going to put on just a simple preset here, and I'm going to put it to the factory setups here, straight from the factory. And I'm going to put preset number 4. And what you'll get is just what you call a good traditional symphonic string preset here. And I'm going to put on the easy button, so it turns on the MCS. So you have your all right, so that's nice. What Lowry did when they introduced an instrument called the Liberty, and then they decided to put it here, is they introduced a new feature. And it's simply called MCS Plus. And I'm glad you're bringing that up on the screen there. And it's real easy to do. When you press MCS Plus, first of all, if you don't press it and you do a 1-finger, you press 1 finger, and if you're looking at the keyboard there, what it'll do is it'll play a G, C, and an E. That's what a 1-finger chord does, the MCS. When you turn on the MCS Plus, does it show what it does in there or no?
It kind of does to the right. It's just hard to see.
Oh, let me move my...
Yeah, it's because everyone's pictures are there probably.
Oh, there it is. Okay. So when you press MCS Plus, what it'll do is play those 6 notes when you're pressing just 1. In some cases, it'll do a 7 or an 8-note chord. And what it does is what kind of chord is that? Anybody know?
That's a C6-9, I believe.
Wow, that's a mouthful. In 26 years of doing this, I've never learned to do a C6-9, and people still compliment me when I play. And I really don't ever want to have to learn it, especially if I have a button that'll do it for me. So what that does is it takes a sound like this. Here's your MCS. Okay. And it does this to it. Fills up the sound. So if you see me reaching up from time to time, pressing something on the panel, it's because I want myself to sound fuller and richer, and I don't want to have to add. And besides, I only have 5 fingers. How do they do it with 5 fingers? I don't know. I think there's another finger that comes out of their shirt that organists have that we don't know about. Now, one of the most the most fun things to do when playing an instrument for everyone is typically the styles that we've talked about. And I'm going to play a couple more styles here for you that I just absolutely love. And this is a style here that is, now, I have my chart here, but if I didn't have my chart and I didn't know how to find this, I have a couple ways because the touchscreen is very interactive and very easy to use. There's a button here called Style List that I can scroll easily, and it gives me every style in alphabetical order. I also have this thing called a keypad, and I could find the style alphabetically and turn it into the letters. Like I want to find one called doo-wop. I hit D in Style List, and it automatically brings me to the Ds, and I touch it. And this is just a fun style. It's called doo-wop, and you'll see why they call it this. Absolutely fun. Some really amazing styles here. This next one I'm going to use is actually, we mentioned the Lowry Patriot. This was actually introduced on the Lowry Patriot, and it's a great, great song. I'm going to go to the style called Your Way. In fact, I'm going to get music for this. Let's see if I have the music over here, right in my fingertips. And the style is called Your Way, and I'm going to play a song called My Way, and I believe one of our artists just featured us in one of our Zoom musicals here recently. And this is great because you're going to actually think we've got the orchestra that performed with Frank Sinatra right here. just some phenomenal styles and sounds that are coming out of this instrument. By the way, that's all coming straight from the instrument. The only time I used my own settings was that one song. This is what you get when you use the presets built into the instrument. Now, since I got this book here, this is another style taken from that Lowrey Patriot, one of the most expensive home organs built. And this is a new style here. And I'm going to go to my keypad, type in C, go to my style list, and it's called Circle of Lions. And I'll see if you can guess the name of the song. Wow, that's just like the arrangement that was written for that movie. And there's the list goes on and 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 on. So many wonderful styles. Actually, I always tell everybody if they want to get everything out of this instrument, they get this songbook.
Ooh.
Oh yeah. Guess what I have, guys? I have a copy of that in my computer. And I'll send it to everybody, and you can get it from your PAs. And those gives you all of the, not all of them, but a majority of the songs with all the new styles. And I always say just have this rhythm chart handy, because anytime you pick these new rhythm styles, it pulls out of the new sounds out of the instrument for you. I'm looking at my list. I'm, gosh, I didn't play that one yet. I didn't play that one yet. I didn't play that one. There's so many great styles, so many great features that the Lowrey Inspire has. I'll finish up with one last number for you. And I want to say thank you for joining me today. And last but not least, I do want to share, I believe this instrument was highlighted on our Zoom musical last Friday. And Sean, you're the one that played on it Friday, correct? You did a couple.
That is correct.
Okay. The interesting thing about the Inspire is, like I said in the beginning, is it represents, it was a very well-received instrument, because for the first time in history, in my opinion, Lowrey finally gave us an instrument that was much smaller in size without sacrificing without sacrificing and taking any shortcuts on the quality of the cabinetry and what have you. You know, you got your really gorgeous wood here. Like I said, everything just like you would on a flagship model. And they also, in that time, they made it significantly smaller in pricing compared to the flagship models. And I think those two, and with everything that the instrument does, is what made it a very successful instrument. Now we fast forward to today, and as of today, and I might be wrong by one, but we have one Inspire in the state of Florida. Now I'm looking at the staff members in Florida. They all look angry right now. Look at Andrew. He's got this mean look. That's not fair. It's just not fair, is it? There's only one. And how many do we have in Arizona, Sean?
I think 2, 3. I'm not sure.
There's 4 technically. Technically 4. And how do I mean technically? Well, as we readapted recently, we realized over the last couple months, we had a lease come due in our warehouse in Arizona. And we realized we're paying a lot of money for a huge space that we can just pay a lot less if we just get 2 small storage units. Locally, we have one in Mesa and one in Tucson. And between that and our stores, we figured we can manage our inventory out here. So what we're deciding to do is we're sending a small shipment organs to Florida. Now, they're not all Inspire, so don't get too excited, okay, Andrew, Brian, Joni? There's going to be a wide variety. So you're going to have an Imperial, you're going to have a Prestige, you're going to have a Star, you know, there's a mix. However, here's what we did recently. Gail, I think I see Gail's thing on here. A few days ago, Gail had a student in her store and said, my customer wants the Inspire, wants to buy one, will buy one, decided to buy one. However, she does not want oak. So what she did is he purchased one of the Inspires we have in Arizona. That's why I said technically 4. So we have 4. One has been spoken for. So when our shipment is getting ready to happen within a few weeks here, when we send units out, if any of these Inspires get sold in Florida, now's the time to do it, because once that ship leaves, that's it. When the shipment leaves, this is your chance to sell an Inspire, because it's not going to cost us any more or less on what we send. It's only on the quantity, and we're going to send the same number no matter what. So we have a few of these left in our company. That's the downside. The even more downside is once the Inspire sell, that's it. This will be the last you'll probably ever see of a Lowry Inspire. And it has always represented one of the best values since its introduction. And recently on the Friday event, I told everybody, I don't know if you all caught this, but normally when we do a sale, we try to do a sale on a variety of instruments. You know, we pick about 10, 12, 15 organs or something like that, and we spread the savings across. So this time we chose 4 organs on Friday to play and represent. And what we did is we put all of our savings into 4 models versus 20 or 30 of them. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, if you have any interest in the Inspire, is to immediately reach out to your staff members, your personal assistants, and find out what they're doing, because I'm going to tell you, this is your one chance to get an Inspire while we still have them. After this, I don't know that we can get Inspires anymore. So with that said, I'm going to finish up with the last number, and I'm going to do one of these, and I'll do it again. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation and demonstration today. And I'm going to finish up, actually, I'm going to finish up where the hobby begins. Everybody who starts the hobby, they start off, let's see if Brian knows the answer to this. What's the very first song in Conductor Magic that we teach? He isn't answering. He must
So
not know.
I think it's a
answer.
Beethoven
You
song,
didn't
isn't
know
it?
the answer, did you? No, he knows the answer. What is it? What's the song
I
called?
think it's Ode to Joy.
Ode to Joy. And I'm going to play a style here. What am I doing? Oh, keypad. S. I'm going to use a style called symphonic. Oops. There we go. I'm going to go to symphonic, and it is under the traditional category. And let's see here. Ode to Joy. Dun, 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 dun. Style is. You ever push the wrong button on your instrument?
Nope.
If I can find it. Oh, it doesn't want to work. My fingers. And the style is called symphonic, if I can ever get to it, which was introduced originally in one of our flagship models. And what I love about this style is the fact that symphonic, it's really truly sounds like a full symphonic orchestra. Listen. Thank you. And I guess you have to throw your hands up a lot when you're doing that. So, well, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon, late afternoon in Florida, early afternoon out here. We hope you enjoyed, and get yourself a Lowry Inspire while you can. Kitty, Kay, Nilda, thank you so much. And our delivery crews are on their way to your house right now. So get with your PAs right now. Take care. Bye-bye.